Animal testing is a barbaric practice in which animals are locked in cages in laboratories and are subjected to terrifying and painful procedures in order to ensure, for testing of new drugs, vaccines, medical devices, and to determine the safety of the products. It's also they use them for the testing of food additives and new cosmetic products. And so the main focus of it is to determine the drug's nature, its chemistry, effects, and potential toxicity it will have on the human body, as described by the FDA. So in an article published in Altex, which is an alternative to Animal Experimentation Journal, the author, Lucy Meigs, estimated that at least 58.3 million animals in 179 different countries are being used, since 2005 have been used for animal testing. But when you add on the animals that have been killed for their tissues, their organs, because of genetically modified strains and for laboratory use, and for they're being killed because they have bred and are being a surplus, the number goes up to 115 million. Right now in the European Union, India, Israel, New Zealand, and Norway and other countries have banned animal testing for cosmetic purposes, but this isn't true in the US. So in the US, the FDA is responsible for making sure that cosmetics are safe and are being properly labeled, and this is reinforced by the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. But this act doesn't specifically require animal testing, but for the safety of the cosmetics, but manufacturers make sure that manufacturers are using whatever means are necessary in order to ensure safety for the human use. So sometimes the manufacturers, when they have no other alternatives, will use animal testing before it's sent out onto the market. And even though there's the Animal Welfare Act and the Public Health and Service Policy of Human Care and Use of Laboratory Animals, the FDA advocates that research and testing should yield maximum amount of useful information from the minimal number of animals, and should employ human methods available within the specific capacity. But the thing is, and according to the FDA, some companies claim to be cruelty-free or not tested on animals on some cosmetic labeling. But this might so it's very loose interpretation, because the companies might only label that as their finished products, but they use raw materials sourced from different manufacturers that have been using animal testing. And when I mentioned the Animal Welfare Act, it doesn't cover mice, rats, birds, and fish. And from previous reports by the Altex journal, at least 80% of the total amount of animals used are mice rodents, rabbits, and at least 61% of them are mice. But PETA does say that some companies are cruelty-free. So like Lush products, Too Faced, Urban Decay, and Elf are against animal cruelty. And they also have a list of companies that do use animal testing, like Johnson & Johnson. Some of their products are like Windex, Pledge, and Listerine. And also some cosmetic companies that use animal testing are L'Oreal and Maybelline. So Thomas Hartung published in the European Food Safety and Authority Journal, he talks about how so animal testing is used in 6 different experiments, It's used in oral toxicity, inhalation, dermal, skin irritation, skin sensitivity, and eye irritation. The thing about these tests are that they have to be constantly reproduced, because and these tests take at least 55% of all animals in toxicology in Europe. So that's about 600,000 animals per year. And they only have an accuracy of 81% and only a success rate of 69%. So there's Underwriters Laboratories that came up with a solution to, there's an alternative to animal testing. And so Underwriters Laboratories came up with this program that has database that includes known hazards and associated chemicals, and it makes predictions and compares it to actual results from actual animal testing. And they use it in 42,000 different cases, and it yielded a sensitivity. The first trial yielded a sensitivity of 84% and a success rate of 61%. They later came up with a model a few years later where they used 100,000 different chemical structures, calculated 5 million similarities, and made about 190 predictions per hazard. And this one yielded more of an 87% accuracy with an 89% success rate. So this was a higher so the machine engineering had a higher success rate than the animal testing did. And although some people argue that animal testing is needed for the efficiency and to know the safety it will have before products can be used on humans, it's really not worth it, because it's a cost of millions of dollars. It takes years in order to yield results, and when it actually comes to human trials, there's a 90% fail rate. So, as PETA states, animal testing is not always predictive of human health effects. Besides the reproductive issues it has, there's strain differences, species differences, there's the relevance of dosage regimen, there's the relative age of the humans and human diversity. So these are all shortcomings that come with animal testing. So when it used for skin irritation, like animal testing is used for skin irritation and for eye irritation or eye sensitivity, the European Food Safety Authority mentions that there's the rabbit Draize test. And so this test where substances are dripped into the rabbit's eyes and smeared on the rabbit's shaved skin. And this is done to record what damages are done. So it looks for like swollen, irritated skin, any cloudiness in the eyes, so this causes a lot of pain for the rabbits, and they are not giving any pain medication. So there is besides the machine engineering, there is also another alternative, which is using PETA states that there is an alternative to instead of using a real rabbit's eye cornea, what manufacturers can do is use a cornea-like 3D tissue structure produced from human cells, and human skin cultures can be grown and purchased for skin irritation testing. And as one scientist from the Natural Resource Defense Council stated that non-animal tests are more valuable, informative, cheaper, and quicker. So animal testing is, we are past the point where animal testing should be needed. Like, we have all their alternative, which can cause less pain and for animals and cause less deaths for these poor creatures. And so what you can try to do is that next time you go to the store and you look at the label, and you can try to see if it has a cruelty-free sign. There's usually like a little rabbit symbol on there, and if it doesn't, just try to please put it back and look for something else that is cruelty-free. If not, like PETA on their website, they have a list of the companies that are cruelty-free, and the list of companies that do use animal testing. So what you can try to do is just like, if you really like the brand, you can try to contact them, email them that saying that you do not like animal testing. So, because it's a waste of the poor creatures' lives. And I really hope you guys take this into consideration.